Hey, how's it going, universe? Shaun again from Zoobox, coming at you with another movie review. Today, we're going to be talking about George Miller's already a classic, Mad Max Fury Road. The reason why we're talking about this is this past week, yesterday at the time of recording this, it was the 5th anniversary of its U.S. release, and pretty much lined up with the international. I think it came out on the 14th of May in Australia and the 15th of May in the United States. Oh, yeah. Lots of useless knowledge up in this brain. So any excuse to watch Mad Max Fury Road is a good excuse, in my opinion. And when I saw yesterday, I saw some people tweeting about it that, oh, it's been 5 years, and there was kind of some retrospectives. An oral history also got released where the actors were interviewed, and there's little snippets of all their interviews in an article talking about the experience of making Mad Max Fury Road. So kind of got the juices flowing. It had actually probably been, I don't know, maybe a year or two since I'd really sat down and watched it. And I am so happy I did. It's still a great movie. I'm a big Mad Max fan. Just a fan of the quote unquote the franchise. I probably the first one I saw was, I want to say it was Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, probably when I was, between like 8 and 11. It was used to be play on TBS all the time in the afternoon, like on the weekends, like Saturday afternoon. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I probably saw it in bits and pieces over, probably over a couple years without ever actually watching the full thing until I was older. And then, of course, The Road Warrior. My dad randomly one day came home with a DVD of The Road Warrior, and I was a fan ever since. Honestly, I would say that even to this day, The Road Warrior is probably still my favorite one. As much of an awesome modern day action movie achievement Mad Max Fury Road is, I think The Road Warrior is, I don't know, there's just something about I love just the era, and I love the aesthetic of the era that these movies were made in. I love the way they made these kind of movies. It's so tactile, it's so grounded, it feels so real in a weird way, and when you see the stunts and the landscapes, and you can just really sense the danger. You can really feel the effort put forth. And I think Mad Max Fury Road, by and large, also does the same thing. Also evokes that same feeling in the viewer. But it is, it's a heavily post-produced movie. So it is a different experience. A very cool experience, 100%, but a different one. In Mad Max Fury Road, I've been reading about this since I was in middle school. George Miller's been talking about this since 1997. And even back in the early 2000s, he was ready to go. They were going to do Fury Road with Mel Gibson returning. It was they tried it in 2001 and then again in 2003. And then 9/11 happened. And the place where they were going to film the movie was in the Middle East. And it was just too dangerous, too hot. So after all that pre-production they did, they built sets, they built cars, they prepped the area, and war. What is it good for? Ruining Mad Max movies. And as curious as I am about what that would have looked like, I am very pleased with the end result, because this is a labor of love for George Miller. Even when they actually got back around to doing it, they still had problems. The first time they went down, I think in Australia somewhere, out in the desert in Australia, they came up against nature a few times. And the area that they were going to film flooded. Kind of, it's one of those things like, this hasn't happened in 100 years. And then things grew. Life happened. Nature found a way. And so they had to wait. They actually had to pack everything up, send all the actors home, and wait a year. And then they returned. And even through that, there was still more problems. Technical problems with the actors. Like I said, that there's this oral history that was recently written in the celebration of the 5th year anniversary. And the actors were really confused about what the hell was going on. And it caused a lot of stress, apparently, and a lot of friction between everybody. Because they just didn't know what the story was. They almost couldn't get a sense of the tone and the direction because everything was so piecemeal. When you watch the movie, these incredible set pieces and these incredible action stuff, but there's still character stuff happening within those scenes. And that's, one of the best things about this movie. It is literally an adrenaline rush. It just does not stop. And except for a part right before the third act, which we'll talk about. But it doesn't stop. And it has to get everything communicated clearly to you about the characters, where they are, what kind of people they are, their life experience. Everything has to happen within action. And so when you're filming that stuff, I'm sure it was very confusing because of how piecemeal it was, and knowing where the fuck you are in your headspace as an actor, trying to figure out what's my motivation, what am I experiencing, what am I trying to convey here. So yeah, that was I guess it was a little bit of a nightmare for the actors. I guess Tom Hardy was even really belligerent with George Miller a few times. He was a real asshole. In which he has come out and apologized, because obviously once you see the movie, you're like, oh fuck, that's what he was doing. And it's so crazy because he was so old, relatively, I guess. Not sure exactly what his age is now, but I think when he made this, he was in his early 70s. I mean, a man in his early 70s kind of came out of nowhere and showed people how it was done, because it had been a long time since George Miller had directed an action movie. He'd kind of done a bunch of kids' movies. He did Happy Feet. That's what he ended up doing instead of Mad Max Fury Road back in the early 2000s. And then before that, I think he did... So like Andre? I don't even remember. Where's his filmography? Let's see what he did. Oh, going the wrong way. Well, he directed The Witches of Eastwick. Dead Calm. Yeah, and then he did Babe. He did Babe, Pig in the City, Happy Feet 2. So he was kind of doing kids movies for a while before he did Fury Road. It's interesting. But he still had it. He still figured it out. And I think it was because of the amount of lead time he ended up having. I mean, this thing was so meticulously plotted and planned out. It's really impressive. And I guess you would have to. You would have to when you're doing something like this with so many moving parts. No pun intended. All the stunt work, all that stuff. It just had to be meticulous, I assume. And yeah, it's a great movie. Like I said, the action is kind of par none. I don't know if there's anybody that has better, not just action, but motivated action. It's actually the thing that propels the story. You don't get a lot of people stopping and giving exposition dumps explaining the nature of the world. It's all through the visual storytelling. It's all through the set design. It's telling you a story. It's all through the casting of the extras, which just has some of the best goddamn faces I've seen in a movie in a long time, and all the little bit parts, and everything feels so perfectly modulated. Even the inner workings of some of the characters, like even just like the War Boys. I mean, just the way they operate, so cool, and you get so much from just these little instances and seeing how they kind of go about their business and then what their headspace is, And also, of course, you got to mention Immortan Joe. Oh my God, Hugh Keys Byrne. He is a character actor from Australia. He was actually a toe cutter in the original Mad Max. And he is a villain for the ages. I mean, he's almost as cool as Lord Humongous from from the Road Warrior. Almost. I mean, it's hard to beat Lord Humongous. He's so perfect in his singular purpose, Lord Humongous. But Immortan Joe is cool. He's a cool-ass villain. He's got a great design. He always makes me chuckle, I guess. But in a way because I'm just so pleased by what I'm seeing. Not because I think he's funny, particularly. One of his sons is the guy who kind of looks like Lord Humongous. I had a baby brother, and he was perfect in every way. Another real standout performance. And when people talk about this movie, you don't hear people mention him too much, but Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult is kind of the heart of the movie. He is the character who probably has the most clear and present arc. And he's great. He goes from, being obviously a war boy and kind of a fanatic. They're all kind of fanatical. And is able to he gets kind of rejected by his family, his quote unquote family, but finds a new one and then really invests in it in a way that's meaningful. It's not like the superficial layer of, witness and just being treated like a piece of cannon fodder. These people actually act as if they care about him as a person, and it really affects him, and that comes across. But the movie never has to stop to tell you that. It's all happening amidst the madness. It's all happening amidst crazy stunts and beautiful effects work and fantastic cinematography. The only weak point I would say, and like I briefly touched on, was like in the beginning of the third act, it definitely slows down, and it's only noticeable because of how high octane, how kinetic, what comes before it is, and then it kind of just has to take a beat, and it's kind of a necessary beat because you really got to establish some things about Furiosa and about the world that these people live in, and the people that live on the outskirts of these kind of mega tribes or whatever you want to call them. But I think that it still has a sense of escalation because the escalation just becomes emotional. Furiosa gets her emotional escalation. So it still always feels like it's building. It never feels like it's actually stops. But it's like a 10-minute scene, maybe 15-minute scene. I mean, it feels longer because of how crazy everything else is. And then they're right back at it again. Off, back towards Morton Joe's, kingdom. Whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't know what you would call it. Maybe I'm not as big of a super fan as I thought I was. But yeah, it's so good. I mean, I don't know if I've ever really met somebody that doesn't at least appreciate Fury Road. You'd be crazy. You'd be crazy if you don't like Fury Road. Who doesn't like Fury Road? Losers. That's who. Even though it's like it's widely accepted. It's not like this is a crazy or off the wall opinion. That comes later when I talk about Warcraft. But it's just as good as people say it is. And it's nice for that to actually happen. I remember I was talking to my buddy back when the trailer came out. And I was just like, man, I don't know how the hell this movie is going to live up to this trailer. This trailer is crazy. I was like, even if the movie is bad, this trailer is still awesome. We'll always have this trailer. We can just go watch this fucking trailer. That first theatrical trailer that they put out was chef's kiss. It was the bomb. I used to watch it all the time. I was watching it over and over and over again. It's such a perfect vertical slice of actually what you get, and then you go see the movie and it delivers on it. It delivers on it. Oh my god. Yeah, I love this movie. I can't wait to watch it again. It's one of those things that you're just like, as soon as you're done, you're like, man, can I just watch this again? I saw it opening night. I think I saw it in 3D. My wife and I were completely destitute. I think after buying the tickets and buying like some popcorn for this movie, I think we had about $4 in our bank account to last us like a week. But we were just so excited. And my wife, she wanted to do it to make me happy, basically. And I was always very thankful that I got to have that theatrical experience, even when it was, mildly irresponsible to do so. But we didn't have a kid then, so it was just us. So not that bad. But yeah, I remember, this is how we felt when we watched it. We're like, oh my God, can we just go see that again? Like now? Like we're buzzing. We're at the house just like running around in circles when we got home, like just buzzing about it. It was so visceral and intense and just everything I hoped it would be. And now I guess George Miller's talking about doing a prequel about Furiosa. I think the working title is Mad Max Furiosa, which I don't like. Just call it Furiosa, I guess. I don't know if I'm like frothing at the bit to see a Furiosa thing, but I trust George Miller. I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt after Mad Max Fury Road, so I'll definitely go see it. Definitely looking forward to it. Would I rather have another Mad Max movie? 100%. Honestly, you know what I wish they would do, and I know this will never happen for a myriad of reasons that we won't get into. But I wish that old Mel Gibson would come back, kind of all haggard and bearded and wild looking, and do like a Logan style Mad Max, like the end of Mad Max movie, where he does one last thing, and you could connect it to his life a little bit, maybe. Because it starts off, if you watch the original movie, he kind of becomes who he becomes because, um, the apocalypse kind of starts to happen, and his son dies, and his wife dies, and then he becomes Mad Max, and he's kind of on the hunt. It's kind of a revenge film, the first one, and yeah, I would love to see that. That would be so awesome. I wish everybody could put their bullshit aside and just do that for me personally, and then never show it to anybody else, and I'll have the only copy. That would be much appreciated. Just because as good as Tom Hardy is, and I think Tom Hardy is a great successor to Mel Gibson, there is something about that. Mel Gibson is a little bit more like outwardly charming, a little more expressive, And I would love to see him take one more crack at this thing. I mean, he would knock it out of the park right now. All the bullshit in his life. Imagine bringing that to Mad Max, to an old man, last hurrah Mad Max story. I'd be down. Because I like, just going back to what I said about like him being kind of a tertiary character. Not totally a tertiary character, but it really is Furiosa's story. And I love that at the end, and he just kind of like waves and fades back into the crowd. He doesn't want to be a part of a family or a civilization. He is a man that is just completely, as the movie puts it, like he's down to one quality, and that is just to survive. He's just been reduced to that. He's almost like a feral animal. And I love that. I love that ending. I thought it was a perfect ending, and I'm so happy it didn't end with like him and Furiosa like standing there while everybody's cheering, and they're holding hands, and he's like, "Yes." I'm so glad it went with kind of it got to have its cake and eat it too. It had the Hollywood ending where Furiosa kind of gets to elevate herself and become a hero to these people, and then they have Mad Max gets to kind of be Mad Max and just kind of fade away. I loved it. Loved it. God damn it. I gotta watch this thing again. All I want to do is watch Mad Max now. I've started it. Yeah, it was really cool. Actually, I have the DVD, but I have a digital copy. And apparently, I use Vudu as my like digital movie service, and they just gave me the UHD version for free, so I could watch it for the first time in digital streaming 4K, which is not quite the same. Although the only reason I never bought this 4K was because I heard it was just kind of okay, and the DVD is actually a really great DVD, or Blu-ray rather, is a great Blu-ray. They did a great job with it, so I got to watch it in some form of UHD this morning for the first time, so that was cool too. The HDR helped a little bit because of all the colors and shit like that. It did enhance the experience a bit. Glad that I did it. And yeah, so that's gonna do it for me today. Sorry for ranting and raving, but I love Fury Road. You should tell your friends about it. If you have somebody in your life who has not seen Mad Max Fury Road, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're like a bad friend. You're a bad parent. You're a bad spouse. Bad whatever. You're just a bad person. You're out there, people walking around out in the world that have never seen Mad Max Fury Road, and you're just selfishly hoarding it for yourself. Look, I've just done my part. This is me doing my part. You're welcome. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.